Hey everyone, welcome to the Zone Defense Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Zone Defense Podcast. Unfortunately, today Ryan and Drew couldn't make it on for the show. We have a special guest I'm really excited to announce for it's his first time on the show and our first special guest, and hopefully he's on more often. It's a fellow writer at the Michigan Journal and an avid sports fan, Roman. Welcome aboard, man.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this today. We're doing back-to-back fantasy episodes on the show today, and I'm really excited for this one. It's gonna be we're doing a mock draft, so we're doing a standard league with a PPR, and then we're doing one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, tight end, and then two flex options without not a super flex though, just regular flex, a wide receiver, running back, tight end, a defense, and then 6 bench spots. So we have the order randomized. So let's get into this, Ryan.
Let's do this.
All right, let's see what picks we got here. I'm really excited for this. I've been doing a couple mock drafts. This is the first one I've done lately. It looks like we actually got back-to-back picks here, so that's going to be really interesting. We got the Roman at the 108, the 10-team league, and then I'm at the 109, so it's going to be fun to see if we steal each other's picks at all.
Yeah, I'm glad we are back-to-back. I'd rather be up ahead of the draft, though, not late in the round, but I think we'll be nice at the turn.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of hate I do kind of like where I'm at in the draft. If I wasn't to get one of those first 4 or 5 spots, I would like to get the 108, 109 spot. All right, so the draft's going on, goes really quickly. So let's go over the board. It's Christian McCaffrey at 1, Saquon Barkley at number 2, Michael Thomas surprisingly go at number 3, Zeke at number 4, Kamara at number 5, Devontae Adams. I feel like they reached a little bit on him at the 106, and then Dalvin Cook at the 107. So what player were you hoping was going to fall to you there?
I pretty much expected those first 5 guys to be off the board, so I was never really considering that. I want to get a premier running back while there still is one. I know running backs are very valued in fantasy in general. While I could take a premier wide receiver, I think I'm going to stick to my running back group and maybe try and get a wide receiver on the back end. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. He'll probably regress a little bit, but at the same time, he was so dominant last season, and even if he doesn't perform the same, it'll be just as good enough for my team.
Yeah, and on the last episode, I believe we talked about. I'm not saying this is a bad pick by any stretch of the imagination, because if you want Derrick Henry, you got to take him in the back half of the first round. He's definitely going to go there in every single draft. But on Derrick Henry, like you said, he's going to regress. He's still going to be really solid, but I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some weeks where you're upset that you had him as your running back 1. So I do like the pick, I am also happy that Joe Mixon was able to fall to me, so I can snag him with this pick, because I'm really Mixon this year, and I would have Henry, but I don't fault you for the pick at all. And so after it went Nick Chubb and Kenyon Drake, a good duo of backs. I was really hoping Kenyon Drake would fall to me, actually, because I'm really high on his chances to be really good this season. So I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to take now, because I was really hoping he would have fallen to me. So my strategy in most drafts is going to be going really running back heavy early on in the draft. But after Kenyon Drake, I feel like there's kind of a little bit of a tier break, because Nick Chubb, I probably would have taken him as well. And while I do like Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler, I feel like there's no way I can pass up on Julio Jones here. He's just so dominant, and I feel like this is a premier back half of the first round pick. I feel like this is kind of the guy that usually these teams go with here.
Yeah, you mentioned Miles Sanders, and actually I think I'm going to take him with my next pick. He's the clear number 1 in Philadelphia. I'll be really upset if they bring in a guy like Freeman or Mostert. Definitely take away those touches. But clearly, I think he'll make a big jump. I would rather have him over a guy like Austin Eckler. I could take Hill or Hopkins, but like I said, I want to get a second running back because there's so much depth at wide receiver. I think I can find some diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, that's a very good strategy there. I definitely considered Miles Sanders with that pick. That's definitely a really good pick. I'm excited to see what you can get later on. We got a lot of picks till our next part. Wow, I'm surprised Josh Jacobs going all the way at the 307. That's a shocking pick right there to me. Really late in the draft. But we got Tyreek Hill went after Roman's pick, and we got DeAndre Hopkins, we got Austin Eckler, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson. I'm very high on him this year, but I'm not that high. I would not take him in the second round there. We got Aaron Jones, we got Travis Kelce. That's a pretty good value for Kelce. And we got Kenny G coming around on the 3rd. We got George Kittle. We got Mahomes going before Lamar Jackson. That's interesting. DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Josh Jacobs, and now Roman's on the clock.
Yeah, I'm very surprised with that Josh Jacobs pick. I would have taken him over Sanders as well. I was considering either of them, but yeah, I was expecting Josh Jacobs to go maybe mid-second round or towards the end. but yeah, it's back with my pick now. I'm not really liking the wide receiver core that's available right now: Juju, Odell, Amari Cooper. I'm not really confident on either one of those guys' ability to be a wide receiver one. While they definitely have the scenario too, um, I'm going to take a guy that I would much rather prefer as a flex guy. If I had him as my running back too, I don't know if I'd be necessarily okay with that, but I'm glad I get a premier rookie running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
He took my pick.
I think he'll definitely perform well in Kansas City. And even though if he might not get the job right away, I think by the end of the season he'll be a definitely running back one for sure.
Yeah, and I like this pick a lot more in a 10-team league than a 12-teamer because your rosters are pretty deep in a 10-team league. It's only a 2-team difference, but it makes a big difference when and in terms of players you can get behind him. So if you build some depth behind him and have Hilaire for the playoff push in like that back half of the season, I think you're going to be really happy because I think Hilaire is going to be end up being a top 15 back. Maybe not right at the start with Damian Williams still kind of having some of that veteran love, but I definitely like his chances to be a very solid player. And that would have been my pick here. So I'm a little bit upset that you took him. But I'm going to go
Sorry.
what's available here with Todd Gurley because, I mean, he has the injury risk, but having him as your running back too and getting him right at the back of the third round, basically the fourth round here, that makes me really happy because I think Gurley still has a good chance to be a back end RB1 to an RB2, especially in the Falcon system. I bet you he's going to get a lot of targets this year. Maybe not quite as many carries or touchdowns in the end zone, but I'm really expecting him to get 50-ish receptions this year. So I'm going to go ahead and take Gurley here.
I'm a little concerned that you took Julio and Todd Gurley, but I think Gurley I think he'll get a lot of carries, and Julio is Julio, so you can't really complain with that. You just need to make sure this fourth pick works out for you.
Yeah, and this spot, I definitely factored that in. And that was why I was hoping to get Hilaire at that spot because I didn't really want to stack teammates. But at the same time, when you have two really good options in Gurley and Julio, I don't mind it as much as taking two receivers on the same team, such as like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. While I do have those two paired up in a dynasty, that would be a pick I wouldn't really want for my actual league, in a redraft format. But I don't know if I really love any of the other running back options here. Fournette's he's an interesting case, but I'm really having a tough time with him this year. So I think I am going to go receiver here. And while I do like Juju's value at this spot, and it shows on here, the experts want me to take him. I'm having a really hard time not passing on Amari Cooper here. But I do see that his bye week is week 10, and my team would basically be shot that week. So I am going to go with Juju here, actually. Even though I probably would prefer Amari Cooper, I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I think Juju will have a bounce back year for sure. So I think he's definitely undervalued coming in at the fourth round. With my fourth pick, like you said, Fournette, Gordon, Carson, and Bell are still on the board, and the wide receivers Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, and Calvin Ridley. A lot of good wide receivers. I think I would be happy with as my number one wide receiver. But if I don't take one now, I feel like they might not make it back to me. I don't really want to have to choose between Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods because they're both good in their own separate ways. And Robert Woods came on strong at the end of last season and will probably take a lot from Kupp this season. But Kupp is also a touchdown machine. I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp on this one.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting pick. I like Cooper Kupp this season a lot. I like both of them a lot, actually. If you can get either one of them in the fourth round, I think you're getting a steal there. And dang it, Le'Veon Bell went. That was the guy I was hoping to get with my next pick. And that's what I'm saying. The running back definitely dries up quickly. So let's go over the picks in between here. So Roman, after taking Kupp, went Amari Cooper, Melvin Gordon, Zach Ertz, which I think that's a little bit of a reach there, Fournette, Jonathan Taylor, which I also don't like him in the fourth round as well. I think that's too early for him. Mark Andrews, Le'Veon Bell, which I'm a big fan of him in terms of the value you're getting right there. Calvin Ridley at the 501, A.J. Brown, James Conner, Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, DJ Chark, which I'm actually really upset that I didn't get him. That was the guy I was hoping to get with my next pick. And then Courtland Sutton went right before Roman's pick. So let's hear what you got.
Yeah, you said Chark. I was hoping he would fall back too, and it was projected to, but he went a little earlier than expected. I would have been happy with A.J. Brown. I can't take Robert Woods. I don't want to stack both of them up. I'm surprised that Andrews went after Ertz. I think Mark Andrews is a clear tight end 3. Ertz shouldn't be going this high. A running back that I do like though is still on the board, and I might pair that with the 3 I have right now. He's very injury prone, but like I said, he'll be my 4th running back, and he'll get a lot of workload as well. I'm going to go with Chris Carson.
Man, I was hoping to get him as well. I think there's a tier break here, and I'm a little bit upset that you took him here. This is the problem with us having back-to-back picks is that we're each going to take guys that the other guy wants. So I guess I'm going to go next best available. I think I need another running back because it really dries up quickly. And I don't really feel warm and fuzzy about any of these running backs, but I think David Johnson has the best chance to be a workhorse back. And he's kind of like Chris Carson in the regard that he seems to be injury prone now at this point in his career. But I think he can kind of eat up some receptions and make up for the loss of Hopkins. So I don't mind him as my running back 3 because I think he has the upside to literally be my best running back if he's still got some juice left. So I'm going to go with David Johnson because of the workload.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a running back 3, and some people can get him on the bench. I think that's a great steal, and there's so much value in that.
Absolutely. And now I have a very difficult pick because so we got man, this is an absolutely brutal decision I have to make. I could go David Montgomery here and just basically lock up my 4 running backs, or I could go with another receiver here. And I feel like this is kind of the game you have to play at the turn. It's because I love going running backs early. Like I said earlier, I really haven't found the value, so I haven't gone. Like I would normally probably go running back, running back, running back, but that's how the value kind of came to me. So I think I am going to pass on running back here. So I have my 3 solid ones, and I think I'm going to look at the receiver position again. So we got Tyler Lockett, we got Terry McLaurin, we got Devontae Parker. All 3 of these guys, I like all 3 of them a lot. I think I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin though, because I think he has the highest upside of the 3 of these. And Tyler Lockett doesn't have a really high target volume. While he will be pretty good this year, I think McLaurin has the upside to be more. So I'm going to go with McLaurin at this spot.
In all honesty, I'm not really feeling the McLaurin hype. I understand that he's on the top of the second-year wide receivers, but you have Dwayne Haskins as your quarterback, and you're play for the Washington to be determined. So I don't know if that's. I just can't get behind that. But I understand you can take him as a wide receiver 3. I'm not going to complain about that. Absolutely. The wide receivers that I'm thinking about as my wide receiver 2 are still available: Lockett, Parker, Metcalf, Hilton. As well as some running backs that I'm not really too high on at the moment. There's definitely a tier break in those wide receivers that I feel like they're all going to be gone by the time my pick comes back around. As much as I kind of don't want to stack like you did, I think Tyler Lockett is a great value, and he's still the number wide receiver on Seattle's team. If I didn't pick Lockett, I would definitely pick Devontae Parker, but I don't know if he'll be able to replicate or break out again like he did last season. I'm gonna go with Lockett on this one.
Yeah, that's a good pick for sure. So let's look at the quick sim of the rest of it because we got this big gap in between us. So let's see what guys ended up going. And I just saw Kyler Murray went right before our picks, and that was a guy I would have considered at the spot. But let's go. So after your Lockett pick, we got Devontae Parker went right after him. We got Deshaun Watson, which I think that's a little early for him. DK Metcalf went right after Lockett. So you can see that how close on ADP there. I think people aren't sure which one of them to draft before, and you made it clear that you seen that Lockett's the number 1 there. For me, it's a little bit closer. I think both are going to have their weeks and both be more of the wide receiver 2 flex options in fantasy. But I do like both of them a lot, so I'd be willing to draft either one of them kind of around this range. So after that, we got T.Y. Hilton, and a guy that I really like at the 608, Marquise Hollywood Brown. I am huge on him this season. I think he's going to have a really solid season. I think he's going to have, now that he's healthy, I think he's going to be an impact player. I don't know how you're feeling about him, but I'd like to get your opinion before we move on.
Which player again?
We got Hollywood Brown.
Oh yeah, I think he's a little injured last year, so he didn't perform the way he expected to. Fun fact: he's also a go at the Madden sticks. But I think he'll be able to put that into action this season, and he'll definitely emerge as the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and I really, besides Mark Andrews, who else do they really have to throw for? They got Devin Duvernay, which he might be all right, but I don't think he's going to do much this season. I really like Hollywood Brown's chance to be a wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 1 if things bounce right for him. But I think he's going to have a big season and a breakout season for sure. And right after him goes the recently traded Stephon Diggs, which is it's an interesting pick for sure at that spot. Julian Edelman at the 6'10". I'm not really big on him this year, even with Cam Newton. I think they're going to kind of spread the ball out. Then we got Marvin Jones, which I do like him. AJ Green, Cam Akers, Dak Prescott, which I think that's excellent value for Prescott at the 704. I thought about taking him back in the last round. I'm not a big early quarterback guy, but I definitely consider him there. We got Tyler Boyd, which is a skilled wide receiver. We got Devin Singletary, and then we got, unfortunately, went right before our picks, Kyler Murray, which I would have considered him as well. Let's hear who you're going to go with.
I just want to say before I get into my pick that Team One got Galladay and Marvin Jones, so that's an interesting stack. I feel like Marvin
Yeah, it
Jones
is.
goes. I feel like Marvin Jones goes later in rounds, but in this instance, he goes in the 7th round. I would have targeted him later on if I could. Um, so yeah, back to my pick. There's still some good options um, with running back and wide receiver. I have more running backs, so I might wait on that. Um, I was really much considering taking a quarterback, and I'm happy Russell Wilson fell to me. But then again, I'd have him, Carson, and Lockett, so I definitely don't. I'll wait on Wilson. I don't really want to take him right now.
Yeah.
Um, Wide receivers that are still available: Gallup, Cooks, and Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller is still the number one on Houston, but even then, he's still very much injury prone, and we don't know what Cooks can do um, as he can emerge as a number one guy as he used to be. I think there's some wide receivers I'll target later on, and there's one running back right now that I feel like might not fall back to me, and I'm gonna just take the chance on him right now. It's Kareem Hunt. He's
Oh,
still,
okay.
yeah, I feel like him on the field as Chubb isn't as bad as people seem. He takes a lot of work from Chubb in the receiving game, and if Chubb goes out, he's a clear running back one.
Yeah, no, I actually really like the Kareem Hunt pick. It wasn't the guy I'm gonna go with the running back, and I'll bring it up in a second. But not the guy I would have taken here. But at the 802, if he was still on the board for me, I definitely would have taken him there to have as my running back 5. But I really like Kareem Hunt's chances to have a really solid season with him, and he hurts Chubb more than Chubb really hurts him. So I think Hunt has standalone value as a flex option in this league. Like he's gonna get you 8 to 12 points by himself, with maybe a touchdown sprinkled in every couple weeks. But the real thing with him that's going to be awesome is that, yeah, if Chubb goes down with an injury, he is a locked and loaded top 5 back for me. Doesn't matter the matchup, doesn't matter what the situation is. He's too good of a receiving back and too good at his job to be anything other than a top 5 running back week in and week out in the fantasy rankings. So I actually really like that pick there. A guy that I would have considered had you taken the running back I wanted, which is not Mark Ingram, even though he's the top guy at the option. It's David Montgomery for me. I don't get a rosy feeling about his talent, but the opportunity him to be good is just incredible. I feel like it's just a value I can't pass up on. Is a guy that he's either going to be in my flex option, maybe over Terry McLaurin, probably not over David Johnson, or he's just going to be depth for my running back group. I think this is excellent value for Montgomery, basically in the 8th round. I don't know how you're feeling about him, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Personally, this might seem too much of a homer statement for me as a Lions fan, but I personally don't draft anyone in the division. I just can't.
Oh,
I can't do
jeez.
it. I can't do it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely understandable. See, I kind of try to stay away from Lions as much as I can because I feel like people in my league overdraft them a lot. I kind of mentioned this in the last episodes. We were talking about Kenny G being a good value in the 3rd round, which he definitely is. But in my draft, I guarantee he will go at least in the 2nd round because we have some huge Lions slappies, and I'm not willing to reach on him that far. But I think guys like David Montgomery may even fall later in drafts with kind of similar thinking to you. Have people not wanting to draft uh, players in their own division, I guess, that aren't on their favorite team, which does make sense a little bit. Like if you're playing regionally, you kind of have to think about the guys you're drafting with that are maybe not going to take a guy like David Montgomery, or say if they're an Eagles fan, they're not going to take a guy like Michael Gallup at the 7-10. He might go around later, so you might be able to get extreme value on really talented players like that. So that's how I draft, I guess, if that makes sense. I just try to
Yeah, I think as a like
you
when
know.
it comes to this draft as a whole, I feel like this draft has gone pretty much how a professional draft could have gone. I know in many homer leagues you see guys go way above their ADP. You maybe see Lamar, Patrick Mahomes go in the first 2 rounds. You know, the tight ends
Right.
go in the first 2 rounds. But I think this has been pretty balanced and even draft, and I don't have too many problems with it so far.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And man, this is a tough decision because I kind of need a receiver here, but I don't like any of these options at this point. I think you're reaching on any of these guys right now, and you're basically just drafting for the wide receiver back, like wide receiver 40 at this point. I kind of want to go running back again, and look who's there. It's still Mark Ingram is still there, and while I don't have the best feeling about him this season, I think I'm going to take him here because I think the 8th round is way too late for him to be going. Like if he was going in the 6th round, I probably wouldn't even consider drafting him. But the 8th round, I feel like he's just too good a value to pass up on. And I know I have week 8, but I don't really draft based on bye weeks a whole lot, just unless I'm drafting like same teammates, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say that maybe the counterpart to Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins. I don't want to give too much away, but definitely a target for me in the next couple of rounds. So we'll see if he goes below or above where I expect him to.
Yeah, for sure.
The next pick I have Russell Wilson still on the board, along with Allen, Ryan, and Wentz. I'm still not going to focus on quarterback. I'm more of a late round quarterback kind of guy. But if these quarterbacks keep falling, I might have to take them
Yeah,
eventually.
couldn't agree more.
Um, like I'm still not going to take Wilson for the same reason I said before. I don't really want to pair him with Lockett and Carson. I feel like that's a little bit of an overkill.
You're kind of capping. You're kind of capping your upside if you take a bunch of guys from the same team. While Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks is not a terrible team to stack with, so I wouldn't totally avoid him with your pick. I'm not saying you have to take him now. Maybe if he falls back to the when we go back to the turn, I would definitely consider taking him there though, because if you have him and Lockett stacked together, that could be a really good matchup. I know, and the Seahawks offense is pretty good. Like if you're stacking like Josh Allen with Devin Singletary and Stephon Diggs, I'd be a little more concerned about that. But Russell Wilson would be one of those guys that I think is a little bit stack proof. But at the same time, I get the concern.
It's funny how none of us have even mentioned like drafting a tight end at once at all, because like once besides the first couple of tight ends that are off the board, the premier tight ends, it's kind of like a no man's land.
Yeah.
Right now there's Ingram, Higbee, and Henry. Not feeling excited about any of those guys. I know that there's some young talent late that I'm definitely targeting, but like I said, I don't have to wait. I can wait for it.
Yeah, I'm part of the club that if you're not getting one of those top even two guy, I really don't even like taking Andrews or Ertz in the third or fourth round. I'm only really a Kittle or Kelsey, or just wait until one of your last picks to grab a tight end, because there's a couple guys that I'm hoping fall back to me that I don't really feel good about. Ingram, Higbee, Henry, or I mean Hurst. I do feel pretty good about, but I also have the Atlanta stack, so I can't take him. He's out for me, but. None of these guys really scream value to me at this spot, but let's hear what you're gonna go with here.
Yeah, so there's definitely a new tier of running backs, and you just took Mark Ingram to cap off an earlier tier. The available running backs are Swift, Mostert, White, Cohen, Geis. Not feeling great about all those. Even Swift, I feel like he's a good talent, but we haven't seen anything from the Detroit running game in a very long time. So I don't think we can just assume that he'll come in and do the job right away, especially with Kerryon Johnson, if he's healthy at least. We're about to get into a new tier of wide receivers, and a couple that I'm targeting. I'm working on my bench right now, so whoever I take I don't have to start right away. And that's exactly why I'm going to take Will Fuller, even if he is injury prone. I feel like when he's hot, and he's had a few good games last season with Hopkins on the field. And if he's a wide receiver one, I feel like he can do some damage.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind the pick here. As a bunch of guys are going to go off the board, so we're going to go ahead and list those. I see some interesting names on here and some interesting values for sure as well. And so I'm excited to see what we go with in our next pick. But we got Deontay Johnson, which is a guy I was thinking about at that spot, but it was a little bit of a reach. Deebo Samuel, which with the injury, I don't really like that pick. I don't know how you're feeling about him, but with the injury, I would not take him there.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely slipping in drafts, and I feel like obviously we're against the computer, so they don't know he's injured probably. But if you're aware of and keep up with the news, you definitely should be avoiding him unless he's an absolute steal in the later rounds. But
yeah,
in the eighth round, definitely don't take him.
Yeah, and then we got Russell Wilson, which is a guy we were all kind of interested to see where he went. 806 isn't a bad value for Russell Wilson, by the way. And then Justin Jefferson, which I think that's a reach as well. Christian Kirk, Tom Brady, going before Josh Allen, which is I would never take Tom Brady over Josh Allen personally. Then we got Keyshawn Vaughn, DeAndre Swift, John Brown, which I think I also don't really like him there with Diggs. Then we got Raheem Mostert, which I actually really like as well, because I do not think he's actually going to get traded. I know he requested a trade. I don't know who's going to actually, because he basically has to get traded and get paid at the same time, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's stuck in San Fran. I think he will be pretty good while he's there. We got Damian Williams, which that would have been nice for you to get him as kind of a kind of insurance policy for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So that would have been an interesting pick to see if you would have went with him. Do you think you would have gone with him had he been on the board?
Maybe not in this round, but depending on how far he fell, I could definitely get him as a handcuff for Clyde.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I agree. Maybe not at this spot, but a couple rounds later, yeah, I would. James White and then Jamison Crowder went right before Roman's pick, so let's hear who you're looking at now.
Yeah, I can definitely start maybe looking at the quarterbacks. There's definitely some good ones available. I feel like that one of them will be back to me on the turn. Running backs, kind of the same old Cohen, Geis, Breida, Howard. Not really going to touch that right now. It's interesting though for the wide receivers because there's Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton available, and I'm going to take one of them actually because I feel like one of them kind of emerged last season, kind of felt the connection with Daniel Jones, and it's even though there is, three wide receivers, Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and Golden Tate, I feel like Slayton will soon emerge, and I'm going to take Darius Slayton.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick, especially for you. You know, you're kind of trying to look at an upside guy. I think I would go Slayton over Shepard with that spot. But it's kind of funny because I'm actually thinking about taking Shepard at this spot. It's a tough decision for me taking him or Anthony Miller here, but I think I am going to go with Shepard here. I like his chances to be kind of a guy I can plug and play in the flex, and he's like I said, I'm not really a big bye week tracker, but I kind of need him as some depth for my week 8 at least. So I think I'm going to go with him there.
You're definitely not a
Ronald,
bad pick, especially for the bench.
yeah, he's definitely a bench player. You know, he could be slotted into the flex whenever I need him. So I kind of like that pick there. So after that pick went Ronald Jones, which I didn't even really see him, but I actually might have taken him there. I actually am a little higher on Ronald Jones than most people. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna end up winning the job this year, or keeping the job at least from Keyshawn Vaughn, because you know I feel like that position just isn't really suited for a rookie. You know, Bruce Arians really doesn't like to play as rookies. Tom Brady, I feel like he needs more experienced Ronald Jones back there. As long as his pass blocking is better, I think he can be a flex to wide receiver 2 option at the running back position. I don't know how you're feeling.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He even gained some weight, really worked out hard in the offseason. I feel like
Yeah.
he doesn't want to give up his spot to just any rookie.
No.
And he's definitely want a piece of that Tom Brady action, and the Buccaneers are going to have a lot of success on offense.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think he could be a big part of that success if he shows an improvement. And then we got Matt Breida, which is interesting that he went at this spot because he actually went before Jordan Howard, I believe. And I don't know if I would take him before, but I am interested in Matt Breida this year because I don't know what role he's going to have, but he is going to have some kind of role because Jordan Howard is absolutely nothing in terms of pass catching. And Jordan Howard is also a guy I'm considering at the spot, but he just has absolutely no upside to offer anything else. And I already have a ton of running back depth, so if I draft any more running backs, it's going to be straight because of upside. And at this point, I'm really having a hard time not taking a tight end because I feel like you're getting really good value from these spots, but at the same time, I don't really like any of these tight ends still. So I kind of want to just pass on the tight end position. And I think I'm going to go with, oh man, this is a tough choice. I'm deciding between 2 receivers here. Anthony Miller is one of them, but I do already have David Montgomery. So I think I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here, actually. Maybe a tiny bit of a 10th round, but I think he has more upside than his ADP is actually going because he's going basically in the 12th round. I actually believe he will be pretty good this season. I think he could be a top 30 receiver for sure in this offense. I think him, Gallup, and Cooper could all be fantasy relevant this season.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to stack Chicago Bears players, so I'm glad you went CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, absolutely not. Even though I do like Anthony Miller, the fact that I have David Montgomery basically just takes him off my draft board here.
Yeah, I feel like CeeDee Lamb's going to cut into some of that Gallup value and maybe some the Witten receptions that were left from last season. So definitely a good
Randall
pick
Cobb
there.
leaving does leave an opportunity for all 3 of them to be fantasy relevant because Randall Cobb did have a few big weeks last season where he was very fantasy relevant and he could basically be plug and play in the flex option. I kind of see CeeDee Lamb is a little bit of that, but I think he has the upside to do more, especially if one of those 2 in front of him get injured. I think he could be a locked and loaded top 20 receiver, maybe even more than that. And CeeDee Lamb is obviously a much better player than Randall Cobb. So with the targets he was getting before that Randall Cobb was getting, he gets the same amount of targets. He's going to do more with that, and that's kind of what I'm looking at here. I think he can be a 900 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns guy this season, while Michael Gallup and Cooper still have value.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who you're taking here, who you're thinking about at least.
If the tight ends we mentioned earlier, Ingram, Higbee, and Henry are gone, I would normally target a guy like Hurst or Gesicki, maybe even Hawkinson, but they're still there. Like the 3 that we mentioned are still there, so I don't want to like overdraft. I'll wait till they're off the board, But
yeah, right. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the running backs are still kind of the same. I feel like there's definitely one I'm going to target. I kind of mentioned him earlier. I definitely hope he comes back to me. I'm not looking at any of the wide receivers at the moment. I have one picked out for later. I feel like I can get as my 5th wide receiver. I'm actually going to go with the quarterback here, and it's definitely between Wentz and Breeze, although I think Atlanta will have a bounce back season. Ryan will definitely be fantasy relevant as he always is. It's definitely hard to pass up on Drew Brees right now, so I'm just going to go with him.
Yeah, I don't mind the Breeze pick at all there. I think that's a good pick. I'm hoping some of the players that I don't want go right here because I'm getting kind of sick of seeing the same names. So I do think a lot of them just went off the board. So let's see what we're looking at now. So After the Breeze pick, we got Evan Ingram finally went off the board. Darius Geis, another guy I'm not interested in. A Pittsburgh defense, which I have absolutely no interest taking their defense in the 10th round. I think that's a very big reach there. I don't know how you're feeling about defense this year, but I'm just going to grab one with my last round pick or my second to last pick after, and then kicker last round if you're doing kicker format.
Yeah, I stream defenses all the way, and normally the ones that I want are still available. I kind of research that ahead of time of who's playing the worst offenses, and I
Yeah.
just take it last round.
Yeah, there's a defense that I will be taking with my last round. As long as you don't get him, I will be 100% taking this defense in the last round. I don't even care where they are on the actual defense rankings list. This is a defense that I want, and I know their week 1 and 2 matchups are both very good. Let's go into the next picks. We got Emmanuel Sanders. We got Tyler Higbee, which I am interested in him here at the 10th round, but I didn't really want to go with him. We got Anthony Miller, Sony Michel, which in the 10-10, I think that's pretty good value for Michel. He could be a flex option at running back. Same with Philip Lindsay. I don't know how interested I am in him exactly because of Melvin Gordon, but if Melvin goes down with an injury, which he has done a couple different times throughout his career, Lindsay could be a running back too, for sure. Tariq Cohen has proven that he can be a back end running back 2 years ago. He finished as the RB12. I don't know if he's going to do that again this year, but I think it will offer some value. And then, unfortunately, J.K. Dobbins went off the board. I know you mentioned you were interested in him. Jerry Jeudy off the board. Kerryon Johnson, no interest in him there. Rob Gronkowski, another guy that I'm glad is off the board now. And then Jordan Howard. And then now we got your pick here. So what are you looking at?
I was gonna pick J.K. Dobbins, but I'm kind of upset he was taken.
Yep, the CPU got you on that one, man.
Yeah, at least it wasn't you that took him. You don't want Hurst, so I can wait on him. I feel like he might fall back on the turn.
Yeah, I will not be taking Hurst.
Even though Henry is available, I'm not really interested in him either. We're in a new tier of running backs with Coleman, Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack, Duke Johnson, and we're kind of getting into backup territory with potential upside. We have 5 more rounds to go, and I might reach a little bit, but it doesn't really matter when you're kind of in the later rounds. You kind of just go for upside no matter where they rank. And we kind of mentioned Deebo Samuel earlier. That's definitely not a place to draft him in the 8th round, but I think if you can get his counterpart and probably replacement for the first couple of weeks, Brandon Ayuk, towards the end, I feel like he can produce just as good numbers as he normally would have. And this is a guy that you're definitely going to cut once Deebo Samuel comes back. But in the 11th round, I think that's definitely worth the opportunity. And I'm definitely okay taking him over guys like Ruggs or Rager because he's going to come into a workload spot already, and you know what he can do. He's going to do exactly what Deebo did, and Deebo is supposed to be fantasy relevant upcoming, so I'll go with Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick at all there, especially early on in the season with your strategy. This is the guy you can cut after a few weeks, unless he's doing really good, which is very possible. You could still be fantasy relevant with Deebo coming back, and who knows when he'll actually be back. But I do like the pick there for sure. And a guy that I am looking at, you did mention him, is Henry Ruggs. This is a guy I'm considering right now just because of strictly upside. It's another guy coming off the bench. He could be very fantasy relevant this season, depending on what he does. Like, I know people aren't projecting him to be Tyreek Hill, but he has that upside in his repertoire. I feel like he has the upside for a top 10 receiver this year, especially because Derek Carr, while he doesn't throw the ball deep that much, he also hasn't had the greatest weapons. And he does have a very good deep ball when he does throw it deep. I know he really doesn't have the weapons to do it. Now he does. Ruggs is a bona fide deep threat. He's going to be one of the better ones in the league. He's going to have some home run plays. He's going to have some home run weeks. I'm going to go with him here. You know, it's off the board a little bit. Not really expecting to draft him all in that many leagues, but I'm going to take him here. I feel like he fits the mold of my team pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to come back to you with the CPU, and you definitely compare him with the Lamb and Ruggs. That's kind of a funny combination.
Yeah, right. And you know, if one of them hits, that would be pretty nice. I'd have on locked and loaded, probably wide receiver 2 and one of those 2 options, hopefully. So then San Fran D went right after my pick, which I am absolutely fine with. And then Mecole Hardman, which is another guy I'm not really interested in as well. It's the 4th or 5th, maybe even 5th option for the Chiefs. I'm not really interested in that at all, personally. I think I'm going quarterback here. And while Matt Ryan, like you said, oh man, this is tough because I do have Julio Jones, and I know we were talking about the fact that we don't want to stack all players from the same team, but having Matt Ryan and Julio Jones together would be pretty awesome. So I'm considering that at this spot for sure. But I'm also considering Carson Wentz because I think he is a very talented quarterback and a guy that's very underrated in the fantasy community. So I am going to go Carson Wentz here. I know it's maybe Matt Ryan should be the record, but I'm going to go with Carson Wentz.
Are you normally a 2 quarterback kind of person, or once you have one, so you're just going to fill out your bench right now?
I will not be drafting a second quarterback in this draft. We usually play with 8 bench spots in my actual home league, so I probably will have a second quarterback in that just because they kind of dry up, and people even go with a 3rd quarterback. But I'm glad I have Wentz. I can end up dropping somebody on my bench to pick up another quarterback if need be.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. You don't really need a backup for Drew Brees
No,
unless you want to stash a talent. Um,
right.
with my next pick, I do need a tight end, and Henry is on the board, but at this point, I don't think Hurst will be there on the way back, so I'm gonna go with Hurst, Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I would definitely take. I'm not high on Henry's chances to be good at all this year. I'm really happy now he is off the board because I don't even have to think about taking him, and I wasn't really considering taking him at all. So let's see what we're looking at now, man. So we got right after your Hurst pick, we got Buffalo defense, Tevin Coleman, which is an interesting pick depending on what happens with Mostert. I know he said he probably won't get traded, but he definitely could. Curtis Samuel, no interest in him there. Hunter Henry, which there he goes right there. Alexander Madison, Mike Williams, Deshaun Jackson, which is an interesting pick there. Marlon Mack, Daryl Henderson, Duke Johnson, Latavius Murray, which is a pick I very much like in the 13th round there. Naeem Hines, Zach Moss, and Boston Scott. And then now we got Roman on the clock.
Yeah, I was looking towards Coleman. He could potentially be a starter. It can emerge from that backfield in San Francisco, but he went 2 picks after me. And then even after him, I was definitely considering Zach Moss, who, just by research and hearing those beat writers, he's going to take up a lot of the goal line work from Singletary, maybe play a Frank Gore kind of role. Definitely would have considered him stashing him. Um, the running backs, like Moss was the last running back I was considering because after him, we're kind of just getting into backup territory, and I'm not really into that. Wide receivers, I think I'm good with wide receiver. Um, if I was going to take Hurst, I definitely want to stack him with another good tight end that I think can definitely emerge later on, and that's Mike Gesicki. I don't trust him starting right away, but I feel like him and Hurst will both have their good weeks, and you just got to pick
Yeah.
out which one will be which. So I'm going to stack Hurst and Gesicki together.
Yeah, I've played a matchup game with them, and that's a pretty good pairing you got there together. So I still need a tight end, but I don't think I'm going to go with one here because I know you said there's no running backs left that you're interested. The top running back on the board is Tony Pollard, and if Zeke goes down with an injury, I have it locked and loaded running back one. This is a very similar situation to Kareem Hunt because I think he's very talented, and I think he has a tiny bit of standalone value. He's a guy that'll catch maybe 3 or 4 passes a game, and he'll give you 6 to 8 points a week, maybe with a touchdown sprinkled in there. But we saw what he can do. He had a couple different games last season where he had over 100 yards rushing. And I think he's got a lot of talent as a player. So if Zeke was to go down with an injury, I think he gets a lion's share of the workload, and he does a very good job with it. So I'm going to go with him to fill up my bench, and then hope that position's still looking good for me. So we got Antonio Gibson and Justin Jackson went off the board. Those two are irrelevant to me. And there's a tight end that I really want to take here that isn't even on the board because I don't like Austin Hooper at all. I also don't like Jared Cook, and I don't even really love Hawkinson at this spot. But there's a tight end that I'm a big fan of that I'm considering drafting. I would like to look at his draft profile. So this is kind of a reach a little bit, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of this player. I'm gonna go with him. It's Jonnu Smith for me. I know he's not on the board anywhere near really the board, but I'm really excited about his chances to finish as a tight end one this year. So I went with Smith.
Yeah, it's definitely not a reach at all. I definitely think him and Gesicki and Hawkinson definitely go late in drafts as well as Fant. All have the opportunity to maybe break out. Many of the experts predict them to be, good enough to be a tight end one for your team. Hawkinson, you mentioned, I feel like if he's healthy and good to go, hopefully he'll be able to get some more targets from Stafford. We're definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do. But I took Gesicki, so not going to take Hawkinson, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair.
My second to last pick, before I take my defense, still looking around to see, trying to find some value. Um, Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford still on the board. I could take either one of those to maybe back up Breeze. Breeze has an early bye week, so I'm definitely considering that. Um, I don't know, it's kind of difficult just trying to figure out what you want to do with your team and where you think your team needs work. But at this point, you might as well just take a person knowing that you could very well cut them in the first couple of weeks and just
Yeah.
see what happens. One guy I think might actually could emerge and have some value is N'Keal Harry if he makes that
Yeah.
connection with Cam Newton. I feel like he can be just as viable as a flex or wide receiver two. The wide receivers going above him were Tate, Preston Williams, and Rager. Don't really need them right now. I'm just taking players that fit a specific role for my team and not just anyone that has any bit of value or more risk. So I'm just going to go with N'Keal Harry right now and end up taking one quarterback for the whole draft.
Yeah, I like the pick here. I think this is a guy that had some upside with Cam Newton. It's definitely an interesting pick for sure. And you're back on the clock now. I'm assuming you're going. You got to go defense now. So let's hear who you're gonna go with.
Yeah, one defense I was considering a couple. One of them was the Colts who were taking they were playing the Jaguars week 1, so that could definitely be a feast for them. Um, but the other defense I am considering is still here, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. They play Washington week 1. I could go with the Chiefs or Vikings because they are good defenses overall, but I think I'm just playing the streaming game and pick one that works each week, and I'm gonna go with the Eagles. Sorry to take that from you, Chris.
Ah, man, that's a dagger in the heart right there. That's a guy I was that was a team I was absolutely to get, and I am a little angry that you took him there. So I had to figure out what defense I'm going to go with.
Before you take your
And
defense, though, I kind of just want to run through the picks that were taken after
oh
N'Keal
yeah,
Harry. Chase Edmonds, Hooper came off the board, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams, Jared Cook, which is a good value in the second to last round, as well as Damon Harris, Matt Ryan, and Aaron Rodgers both come off the board. And then the rest of it are pretty much defenses. Do you have any thoughts about any of those late round guys? Can any of them emerge?
um, I could definitely see Matt Ryan is the pick that stands out here. I guess for me, I think Matt Ryan in the 14th round. I kind of makes me regret taking Carson Wentz in the 12th round because if I could have got Matt Ryan that late, I feel like that would have been an awesome value for me. And if that would, and I said I was thinking about just kind of starting him with all the other stack options I have. I kind of regretting not taking him now. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but
It's all right.
yeah, I'm just kind of trying to figure out what defense I'm going to go with. I had a really tough time over here because that was really the defense that I absolutely wanted. And well, some of the top defenses on the board are the Vikings. They play the Packers. I'm not interested in that. The Chiefs against the Texans. I'm also not interested in that. And then the Rams and Cowboys. Going with the Rams defense seems like kind of a suicide mission here.
I don't want to
So
give you
I'm
any idea. I don't want to give you any ideas, but the Chargers play a rookie Joe Burrow week 1. I don't know how you feel. Burrow will come right out this gate.
Are the Chargers still on the board? Yeah, they are. All right. Yep, I'm going with the Chargers here. That's actually a good defense. I'm not upset about that too much. So
Do you want to give a rundown on your team?
yeah, I'll go through my team. I got Carson Wentz at quarterback, and I got Joe Mixon, Ty Gurley at running back. I got Julio Jones, Juju at the receiver spots. I got Jonnu at the tight end. And then my flex spots, I got Terry McLaurin, David Johnson, defense, the LA Chargers. Then on the bench, I've got Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, Sterling Shepard, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, and Tony Pollard.
What grade did you get?
I ended up
On
getting
this
86 out of 100 on this one. So not my best draft on here, but I think this draft is better than I think I did a better job drafting than the actual draft board gave me on that.
Yeah, I don't think the grade really matters. It depends how you feel about it, and the draft doesn't make or break your team. There's still plenty of work to do throughout the season. I got an 81 out of 100. My quarterback was Drew Brees, with running backs Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders. Wide receivers are Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett. My tight end Hayden Hurst. My two flex guys are Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Chris Carson. I stole the Eagles defense from Chris. On my bench, we have Kareem Hunt, Will Fuller, Darius Slade, Mike Gesicki, N'Keal Harry, and Brandon Ayuk. So is there anything that you think you could have done better, or what do you think about your team as a whole?
Oh, I definitely like my team a lot. Looking back at it, maybe I wish I would have gone with that Miles Sanders pick over Julio Jones there, just because I think I could have gotten some better value at the receiver position later on. But I think this team could definitely do some damage, and I definitely like the situation I have at the running back position. Joe Mixon, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, David Montgomery, and Mark Ingram all could be starting options for me throughout the season. You could start up to 4 running backs, so I think that's having a lot of running back depth is going to be key this season, especially with the virus going on. It's going to impact teams and players and some of these guys might sit out even. I mean, obviously you're not doing your draft right now in your actual league, but in a month from now, you could see people start opting out kind of towards the season start.
Absolutely, and even in terms of who's left on the board, there's plenty of value in case anyone gets hurt or opts out of the season. Matt Stafford, Daniel Jones, I think both can have good fantasy viable seasons. Running backs, there's Adrian Peterson, Giovanni Bernard, Carlos Hyde maybe is an underrated maybe pick in case Carson goes down again. Burrow is also on the board. Wide receivers, Rager, Robbie Anderson, kind of underrated, and a couple more rookies, but overall, I think my team is pretty good. I'm very happy with it. That I got my top, 5 running backs, my 5 running backs earlier in the draft when I could focus more on wide receiver or tight end. I have a lot of bye weeks of 11 though. Darius Slade and Gesicki and Ayuk all have week 11 bye, but they're on the bench, so I don't think that'll affect me too much. But the bye week is a game to play when you're drafting. You don't want to draft obviously everyone with the same bye week.
Yeah, I wouldn't focus too hard on the bye week, but you definitely have to be concerned about. You don't want to put your entire team on the week 10 bye, kind of like I did this one. So I guess that's something you have to consider, I guess. But at the same time, you can add or pick up a couple guys in free agency with different bye weeks after guys you have to drop. So like if I'm looking at like if Ruggs isn't showing out, Sterling Shepard gets injured, those are guys I'm looking to cut right away for options that I'm going to need to fill in for those bye weeks or whatever. But other than that, I'm looking through everybody else's team. Interesting pick. Team 2 going with Saquon, Aaron Jones, and then coming back with George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and then they ended up with a good receiving core too. AJ Brown, Diggs, and AJ Green. I think that's a pretty good team right there. And it's very interesting. They went with both Kittle and Andrews to start basically both one of those two in the flex. It's an interesting strategy. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, considering that this is a 2 flex league, that really crossed my mind really of starting one tight end and then playing one in the flex. So
it's definitely interesting though, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can have a starting lineup of Barkley, Jones, Kittle, Andrews in the flex, AJ Brown. That's definitely a solid team coming out of the gates.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Lamar Jackson is going after Patrick Mahomes is absolutely ridiculous in this. I would definitely take Lamar Jackson a lot before Mahomes. If I actually consider Lamar with my 309 pick, and I could have taken him there and been pretty happy with my team because I think Lamar is still going to be very good this year. But you notice how big of a gap there is between Lamar and the next quarterback, which is Deshaun Watson. So you can really weigh down quarterback, and you kind of see some of these guys starting to go in those middle rounds. There's still excellent value, like Carson Wentz, even like Roma getting Drew Brees, a very excellent pick there, and then Wentz, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers. I'd be willing to take any of those guys, and I would actually prefer to take any of them over some of these mid-round quarterbacks when you can get one of those pretty good value receivers like Terry McLaurin. You can go ahead and get Kareem Hunt around there. You can get Michael Gallup. You can even get like AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. Those are guys that I would much rather have over those quarterbacks. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's why I want to wait on quarterback.
The value this year for quarterbacks and tight ends is insane this year. So I don't fault anyone for waiting till like the very end to take a wide or a quarterback and a tight end. You're definitely going to get a breakout option in terms of maybe Hurst or Gesicki or Jonnu Smith or like an Aaron Rodgers who didn't go to the last round, which we shouldn't be sleeping on Aaron Rodgers because he's so good.
Yeah, he could easily bounce back. I know they didn't really add much in the offseason, but I still think Rodgers has some juice left, and I think he could still be an excellent option for the boys in Green Bay. And I'm just kind of going through everybody's team still, just kind of looking to see what I got. I want to look at the Chubb, Kenyon, Drake team. How do they stack up? So they got Lamar, they got Chubb, they got Drake, and then they ended up getting OBJ and Jarvis Landry. So they are really stacked up on Browns players if you look at that. I would not be interested in doing that because I think they're going to be a very run-heavy team. So having Chubb, OBJ, and Jarvis Landry seems like a little bit of overkill for a team that's probably going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of taking 3 players from one offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough decision because they could be a pretty good offense, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know if I'm really interested in that as well. Team 6 really went wide receiver heavy early on, and you look at Adams, Hopkins, and Thielen the first 3 rounds. That's a loaded wide receiver core. But getting Melvin Gordon as your running back 1, and then following that up with Devin Singletary and James White, I feel like you're not going to be very happy with your running back core throughout the season. And they also did get DJ Chark, and I really like that pick there. I'm very upset they took him there because I really wanted him.
Me too.
Having all those receivers, it's really nice, but not having very good running back core usually is the downfall of good, not great fantasy teams. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's definitely a running back 0 strategy that you can do, but that's more suggested to if you're drafting in the back half of the first round.
Right.
You obviously want to get the best wide receivers, which Team 6 did, but he didn't really follow it up with maybe the best running backs. Instead of Shark, he maybe could have taken a James Conner, which has some upside, or maybe or a Carson or David Johnson. So it just depends on how you play the game and who comes to you in the draft.
Yeah, that's absolutely true there, and this was a lot of fun. I don't know if how you feel about the draft, but we definitely need to do more mock drafts before the season starts because I felt like this was a really good exercise to just see what's going to happen throughout the season.
This is kind of unscripted for you, but do you have maybe one piece of fantasy football advice in terms of drafting?
Well, my draft strategy, I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's going to be go running back heavy early on, and it's kind of a strategy that Roman liked to follow. I know the actual grade they gave him wasn't that great, but I love the RB trio of Henry, Sanders, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then following that up with Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt. I feel like that's the strategy you got to go with if you want to have an elite fantasy football team. And look, hopefully all those guys hit for you. And maybe Edwards-Helaire will be kind of like Sanders was last year, where in the back half of the year he's just absolutely a monster. And if your team can hold up till then, I think you're gonna have a very good team. But yeah, my strategy is definitely go running back early and often for the first 5 rounds, maybe 4 of them be running back, and then smash receivers in the middle rounds, and then just wait on tight end and running back, and then obviously defense. Don't reach on any of those supposedly good defense like the Steelers. I would never take the Steelers defense in the 10th round or the Niners in the 11th round.
You're definitely going to get a lot of players in your home league that will draft kickers, tight ends, and defenses way above than they should go, and that just helps you picking out the value that's left over.
Yeah, that's why I'm always a heavy component of not drafting a quarterback until late, because I know that even the CPU, they didn't reach on quarterbacks at all. They actually let them go really far, which, I mean, Prescott and Watson and Murray, those are hard names to pass up on the 6th and 7th round for sure. I actually do like those picks a lot. But in your league, Murray might even go in like the 4th round, and I could see Lamar being a back half first-round pick by someone. Maybe the championship guys got a late-round pick in your draft. I could see him going Lamar Jackson, because most championship teams had Lamar and Chris McCaffrey, or one or the other. And obviously McCaffrey's going with the 101, but Lamar, if they see him there at the back half of the first, early part of the second, they're going to take him there. And that's just going to help you out. Pick out higher, like a player like Aaron Jones, a player like Austin Eckler could fall one more spot to you, and you could be very happy with the end result of your team because of that quarterback going earlier.
Yeah, the guy who took Lamar Jackson the year before is definitely going to try and get him again as early as he can. But
yeah,
and even though that he will return that value, like no one's going to deny that Mahomes and Lamar Jackson will live up to where they're drafted. You just can't take the chance of maybe risking another good running back that you need more when you can get a Stafford or a Jones or a Breeze later on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that strategy. And if you don't have anything else to add, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Zone Defense podcast. But it was really nice having you on, Roman.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be a face I'm sure you'll see more often than not. It's a very fun talking to you for the draft, and a very fun mock draft to do together. Just kind of let us know who you think have a better team, or if you look at any of these, you kind of look at all these CPU lineups too. You can let us know if any of these teams stand out to you. But yeah, that's going to do it for us here. Like I said, make sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and subscribe to YouTube. Hit that bell for the notifications on Zone Defense Podcast. But that's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you next time. Peace.